Alright, if you're a beginner in Tekken and you watch someone like Arslan Ash win 5 EVO championships, countless majors, and just be an absolute fucking Chad at the game, you'll probably think to yourself, wow, I will never be that good at Tekken. And you're absolutely right. However, while players like me and Arslan Ash are gods at the game, they didn't start that way. They had to learn everything from scratch just like everyone else. And in this video, I'm going to give you some tips on how to use training mode in Tekken 8 to better yourself as a player and level up by practicing things like punishment, breaking throws, and reacting to lows, because who knows, you might be the next Arslan Ash, but probably not. Anyways, if there are any major tips that I skip over in this video that you feel are very important to practice, please let us know down in the comment section below so we can grow together as a community and become better players. Now, let's get into the video.
Punishment.
So first up, we have arguably the most important Tekken fundamental, block punishment. If your opponent does an attack that leaves them -10 and up on block, it can be punished. The more minus the move is, the bigger the punish you can get. Now if this seems a little confusing, it fucking is. But stay with me and I'll give you a drill to use in practice mode to get better at punishing your opponents when they do unsafe moves. When you're in an actual match, a good way to go about punishing moves that you don't know the frame data on is by using your 10 frame punish after you block the move. If your opponent is able to block your 10 frame punish, then the move is probably safe. Or you're just a scrub and didn't punish the move correctly. So for this drill, you want to go into practice mode and pick your main character. Set your opponent as Fang. Then you want to go into training mode and set it to defense. Then go to CPU opponent action 1 and record. Set your character to block by pressing the touchpad and square if you're on PlayStation. Then start the recording by pressing the touchpad and circle. Have Fang do a jab into back 1 and then immediately hold back to block. Then stop the recording and press yes to record this movement. Now you're going to do the same thing for CPU opponent action 2, but this time you're going to set Fang to do jab into back 1+2 and then immediately hold back to block. Then stop the recording, press yes to record this movement. Now you're going to set the action frequency for the second recording to 0 and leave the first recording on 1. Now play the recording, and when you block Fang's back 1, you'll notice that he's -12 in the frame data section, which means you have 12 frames to punish Fang. I want you to find your character's 10 frame punish, and when you block Fang's back 1, punish him using your character's 10 frame punish. If Fang is able to block your 10 frame punish, that means you've done it too slow. Do this until you're able to punish Fang 5 times in a row without messing up. Once this is accomplished, go into the settings and make the action frequency for the first recording 0 and the second recording to 1. Now when Fang does his back 1+2, you'll notice he's -19, which means he can be launch punished. I want you to figure out your character's 14 or 15 frame standing launch punish and punish Fang when you block the back 1+2. Now the same rules apply. If Fang is able to block your punish, that means you were too slow. Do this until you're able to punish Fang 5 times in a row without messing up. After you've successfully completed this, set the frequency for both recordings to 1 and set the action intervals to short. Now Fang will randomly do one of the 2 recordings, and I want you to use the appropriate punish for whatever recording he does. This will take some time to get it down and get used to, but it will definitely help and be worth you getting better at block punishment.
Reacting to lows.
Alright, next on the list is another really important thing to learn if you want to level up in Tekken, and that's reacting to those slow ass lows. We've all been in the situation of fighting a Brian, or a Lily, or a Zhao Yu, or a Dragunov, or any one of those characters that have these seeable launching lows. You know they're gonna do the fucking lows, they do it, and then you just stand there and watch them because you can't react to them. And you feel bad about yourself for the rest of your night. But now, I'm going to give you a drill to practice reacting to these lows. So now you want to go into training mode with your main character and set your opponent as Brian. Then you're going to go into training mode and set it to defense. Then go to CPU opponent action 1 and record. Set your character to block by pressing the touchpad and square if you're on PlayStation. Then start the recording by pressing the touchpad and circle. You're going to have Brian do jab into up forward 4, then immediately hold back to block. Then stop the recording and press yes to record this movement. Now you're going to do the same thing for CPU opponent action 2, but this time you're going to have Brian do jab into down 4-3 and immediately hold back to block. Then stop the recording and press yes to record this movement. Now you're going to set the action frequency for the second recording to 0 and leave the first recording on 1. Now play the recording and you'll see Brian do jab into his orbital, which is the mid. This is to keep you from automatically blocking low, because if you do, Brian will hit you with his mid launcher. Now set the second recording to action frequency 1 and the first recording to action frequency 0. Now Brian does jab into snake edge. When you block his snake edge, punish it with your character's wall rising launch punish. This is very easy to do alone, but now set both action frequencies to both recordings to 1 and action intervals to short. Then Brian will randomly do one of the recordings. You only need to do anything if Brian does the second recording though. You need to react to snake edge by crouch blocking and launch punishing Brian. I would recommend doing this drill for a few minutes or while you're waiting for your next opponent in between your rank sets. And if you're struggling with a specific character's reactable low, feel free to use them instead of Brian so you can learn the animation of their low specifically.
Breaking throws.
Now imagine this. You hop in a ranked and you get matched up against a King player. You don't think anything of it because why would you? So you get into the match and King goes for a giant swing grab, but you break the throw. Then later on in that same match, King goes for another throw, and another throw, and another throw. But you break them all and leave that King player absolutely speechless with your astonishing throw breaks. And then you wake up from that fucking dream because that shit doesn't happen in real life. In reality, you got hit with every single one of those goddamn throws and went to go reflect on your poor decisions afterwards. But what if I told you there was a way to get better at breaking those throws? Sometimes. Okay, honestly, King is gonna put his filthy little fucking hands on you no matter what you do, but this drill can help you improve your throw breaks. For this drill, go into training mode with your main character and set your opponent as Brian. Then you're going to go into training mode and set it to defense. Then go to CPU opponent action 1 and record. Set your character to block by pressing the touchpad and square if you're on PlayStation. Then start the recording by pressing the touchpad and circle. You're going to have Brian do his 1+3 grab, then stop the recording and press yes to record this movement. Now you're going to go and do the same thing for CPU opponent action 2, but this time you're going to set Brian to do his 2+4 grab. Then stop the recording and press yes to record this movement. Now you're going to do the same thing for CPU opponent action 3, but this time you're going to have Brian do up forward 1+2. Then stop the recording and press yes to record this movement. Alright, now you're going to set the action frequency for the second and third recordings to 0 and leave the first recording on 1. When you play the recording, Brian will do his 1+3 throw and you will notice he reaches out with his left hand. This indicates that you break this throw by pressing the 1 button. Now set the second recording to action frequency 1 and the other two recordings to action frequency 0. When you play this recording, Brian will do his 2+4 grab and you'll notice he reaches out with his right hand. This indicates that you break the throw with the 2 button. Finally, set the third recording to action frequency 1 and the other two recordings to action frequency 0. When you play this recording, Brian will reach out with both hands. This indicates that you break the throw with 1+2. Now set all the recordings to action frequency 1 and the action intervals to short. Every time Brian does a throw, try to identify which button you should use to break the throw. And when you feel comfortable with that, let Brian throw you and try to break all the throws. Being able to do it correctly most of the time is going to take a lot of practice, but this is a really good drill that you should be using every time you play to get a little better at breaking throws.
Watching replays.
The last thing I would recommend you do to practice getting better at Tekken is to watch your replays. This is probably the easiest thing you can do to improve the most, because Tekken makes it really easy to watch your replays and they give you tips as well, such as punishments you fucked up on, better combo routes, and what buttons to use to break throws that you keep getting hit with. To get to your replays, go to the main menu and go all the way to the end where it says replay. Then go to my replays and tips at the bottom. Here they show you the replays of your last 100 matches, and I do believe you are able to save some replays if you choose. But what I would recommend doing is watching the replays of the match that you got absolutely bodied in. As the match plays out, they will show you things that you can do to improve and let you practice in real time. On top of this, you can turn off suggestions and just watch the match yourself to see what you're doing wrong. I will warn you though, watching your own replays is probably the equivalent to hearing your own voice in a video. Now you can also have your friends who play Tekken watch some of your replays to point out the things that you can do better. The main point of this is to see the mistakes that you're making in a specific match and try to stop making those mistakes and improve your gameplay in real time. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for today. If you found this video helpful, please consider leaving a like and a comment, and subscribing to the channel so you can stay up to date on all the content I plan on bringing you. And until next time, later.